Sage, what'd you do on your wellness day?
I went skiing. What did you do?
Yeah, it's something like that.
And your Temple!
You smell that? I'm getting a big whiff of tournament time.
Yes, March is finally around the corner. But first, let's talk about this past week full of all things USF versus Temple.
That's right, Temple played its 2 games against USF over the span of 4 days. And while Temple isn't on USF's schedule for the rest of the year, I think I know the game plan for the Bulls the next time these teams meet. Somebody get on zero! Caleb Battle exploded for a combined 54 points in Temple's 2 matchups against South Florida. He had 22 in this one. Battle not the only one red hot Wednesday night either. Temple lighting it up behind the arc, shooting 7 of 14 from deep in just the first half. Seniors on this team see the underclassmen making shots. Dre Perry wants in on the action. The other captain, J.P. Mormon, been out of the starting lineup these last few games. He cuts into the lane, lowers his shoulder, and heaves a hook shot. Pure. That was some old-fashioned basketball from J.P. Temple stretched their lead out and got the young guys back in. Have a day, Nick Jourdain! His second three-pointer in 3 attempts. And there's that man again. Caleb Battle pulls up for 2, and that puts a cherry on this one. Blowout, 65-47.
In the locker room during halftime, we just kept our focus and just said it's not over. And we wanted to come out ready to play and win the first 5 minutes. And then it turned to 10, and then it was just about getting 3 stops in a row and continuously doing that. And we did that, and it led to a victory.
One word describes Sunday's game: battle. Not only was it a battle till the final minute, Temple's Caleb Battle ran the show. In just his second start this year, he scored a staggering 32 points and pulled down 10 boards, recording his second double-double of the season. But it just wasn't enough to prevent loss number 6 in a row for the Owls. Despite Battle's standout effort, turnovers were the name of the game once again. Temple threw the ball away 17 times. That's 10 more turnovers than USF. The Owls were down by just 4 in the final 40 seconds, but they couldn't seal the deal. Final score, 72-66. The Owls are fresh off the split with USF, and there's now 2 more games till the men's AAC tournament, but those games are a week apart. The Owls will take flight and head south to the Sunshine State once again on Saturday. They've beat the UCF Knights once already. A week later, Wichita State comes to town, and if the Owls can build and keep some winning momentum, they could avenge their 3-point loss against the Shockers earlier this season.
The ladies had a chance Wednesday to shock the nation against the 13th-ranked USF Bulls, and they certainly brought their A-game. Jasha Clinton cuts in and dishes it to her teammate Lex Williamson for the short-range 2. Williamson got the first 4 points for the Owls. After that, however, only 2 Temple players scored for the rest of the game as Bethany Manunga hits the mid-range J. It was the Jasha Clinton and Mia Davis show. Clinton gets some separation and pulls up for the 2. She finished with 20. Time running out in the first quarter. Mia Davis heat check from downtown. That tied the game at 11. The Greek Freak, not Giannis, but Elena Chinecki, drills a 3 to give USF a lead. Temple played its hearts out against the first-place Bulls, but in the end, simply overmatched. USF stays undefeated in conference play and wins it 56-47.
The men aren't the only ones with the Knights on the calendar. The women will join them in Orlando on Saturday with a similar goal: to beat the Knights again the second time around. UCF is 12-2 overall, and Temple is their only conference loss. I don't predict the Knights will give up this one too easily. After that, the women will have a pair of Memphis games, both at home, thanks to a rescheduled postponement. This week, Owl Sports Update reporter Luke Meli is in the courtroom to talk about how the women will fare down this final stretch. Hey, Luke.
Hey, Sage. Thanks for having me on.
The Owls sit at 5th in the AAC standings, and they're 9-6 in conference play. After Wednesday's loss, how do you think this rest of the season is going to go?
Well, I think, Sage, the last 2 games of the regular season are almost irrelevant. The Owls are locked into that 5th spot in the conference, meaning that they will get a first-round bye in the AAC conference tournament. But for March Madness in particular, the bracketology experts have only 2 teams from the American making the big dance. So for Temple, it comes down to running the table and winning that conference tournament. That's their only chance to make it into the big dance.
Now, Luke, you mentioned it. Temple would have to run the table if they want to make the tournament, and that means they'd have to pass the pesky USF Bulls, who don't have a loss in the conference. Do you see anybody beating USF in this conference tournament?
Well, Josh, it would be a tall task. We know how dominant this Bulls team is, and I think the biggest part about the Bulls is that they can win in more ways than one. They're first in the conference in scoring offense, but they're also second in the conference in scoring defense. So even if the shots aren't falling like they weren't against Temple, they were able to hold the Owls under 50 points. They can win games in more ways than one, and I think that's why that team is going to win the conference tournament.
Ooh, some advanced metrics from OSU reporter Luke Meli. Luke, as always, thanks for coming on, man.
Guys, before I go, can I do the honors?
All right, go ahead.
Without further ado, court's in session.
Last week, Sage brought a lofty charge to court. Now the jury has had its time to mull it over, and the indictment is in.
The people have spoken, and 56% agreed that the women would win out the remainder of the regular season games. On Wednesday, some new evidence came to light. Turns out, the women were falsely accused. Thanks to USF, the Owls have started their final stretch with an L. This week, Josh is the judge, and he will be representing the AAC. Josh, state your case.
That is correct. Always representing the most underrepresented conference, that is the AAC. The charge for this week, the AAC will most likely be sending 2 teams to the big dance in March. However, in a normal season, this conference should be sending 4. When Selection Sunday rolls around, one of the biggest pieces of criteria are Quadrant 1 victories. Quadrant 1 games are defined by who you're playing and where. A home game against a team ranked 1 to 30, a neutral site against a team 1 through 50, and an away game against 1 through 75. And for a little context, Temple's game against UCF Saturday will be a Quadrant 2 game because they're playing on the road against the 104th ranked UCF. Now, due to COVID protocols, there has been an extreme lack of non-conference games across the country. For some conferences like the Big 10, Big 12, and ACC, this is no problem. They're still able to rack up double-digit Quadrant 1 games. But for a conference like the AAC, it's almost impossible to pick up those Quad 1 games. As a result, aside from Houston, no AAC team has an inside track to the big dance. Wichita State, Memphis, and SMU, in that order, have chances of getting into the tourney. The big problem here is those 3 teams have played a combined 9 Quadrant 1 games. For scale, Minnesota alone has played 14 Quadrant 1 games in the season. I'm not getting on a soapbox and telling you the AAC should be talked about like those other power conferences. However, this is a case of the rich getting richer in college basketball. My charge for this week, with a few more out-of-conference games, the AAC would be guilty of sending 4 teams to the NCAA tournament.
As much as we'd all love to see Temple thrown in the mix, they wouldn't be close to getting a golden ticket, even if it had been a normal season. Let us know the verdict on our poll on social at OwlSportsUpdate. While you're at it, check out our Sports Brief on Monday, Owl Access Pass on Tuesday, and OwlSportsUpdate on Thursday to get all your Temple sports coverage. Hey, next time we see you, it'll be March. But until then, have a great week.
March at last. I can't wait to get some printer ink and fill out all those brackets. But that's all the time we have for today. For Sage Hurley and myself, you have a great week. We'll see you next Friday.